You went undercover in the Los Zetas. They made you prove it. It's 1:47 a.m. in a warehouse outside Nuevo Laredo. There are 11 men in the room. You know 4 of them by name. One of them taught you how to field strip a rifle last Thursday. One of them shared his food with you when the generator went out and the kitchen went cold for 2 days. They are not bad men in the way that the briefing documents describe bad men. They are specific men, with specific histories, and right now all 11 of them are looking at you. On the floor in front of you is a man you have never seen before tonight. His name, according to the 2 men who brought him in an hour ago, is Rodrigo. He is accused of being an informant for the DEA. The evidence is a phone number found in his contacts, a number that, when called by one of the Zetas intelligence people, connected to a DEA field office in San Antonio. Rodrigo says he doesn't know how the number got there. He says someone put it there. He says this with the specific desperation of a man who is telling the truth and knows it will not matter. The man running this room is called El Tigre. He is not a lieutenant, not a boss. He is the person the organization sends to rooms like this one to determine the outcome. He has been looking at Rodrigo for 40 minutes. Now he turns and looks at you. He says, "You've been with us for 7 months. You want to show us what that means, or you want to stay new forever?" The room waits. Rodrigo looks at the floor. You have exactly the length of a breath to make a decision that will define everything. The operation, the case, 2 years of preparation, and the specific question of what kind of person you are when there is no one watching except 11 men who are waiting to see. This moment did not arrive without warning. Every warning just looked like something you could manage. 23 months before the warehouse. You are 35 years old. 9 years with the DEA. The last 4 in the Laredo field office working the Texas-Mexico border. You have run operations on both sides. You speak Spanish with the specific fluency of someone who learned it in the field rather than a classroom. Functional, colloquial, carrying the particular accent of the northern Mexican border states that is different from textbook Spanish in ways that matter. Los Zetas are different from every other cartel the DEA has worked against, and the difference is structural. They were founded by deserters from the Mexican Army's elite Special Forces unit, men trained by the United States government in counterinsurgency tactics, unconventional warfare, and the specific discipline of paramilitaries. They took those skills and applied them to organized crime with a precision that transformed the cartel landscape of northern Mexico. The Zetas do not operate like a criminal organization. They operate like a military one. Command structure, operational security, intelligence gathering, systematic violence as a management tool rather than an emotional response. The result is an organization that the DEA's own analysts have described as the most dangerous cartel in North America. Your supervisor, ASAC Mendez, calls you into her office on a Tuesday morning and closes the door. She says, "Laredo cell. We've been building a case for 3 years. Supply routes from Nuevo Laredo into Texas, estimated 80 kilos per week of methamphetamine, 2 confirmed homicides on the American side connected to the same cell. We have the supply chain mapped except for one node, the distribution coordinator on the Texas side. Someone who moves product across and manages the American distribution network." She puts a photograph on the desk. A man in his 40s, unremarkable, caught by surveillance camera at a truck stop outside Laredo. She says, "This man is known as El Contador, the accountant. He manages the money and logistics between the Nuevo Laredo cell and the American distribution network. He has never been identified, never been photographed clearly, never left a paper trail that leads anywhere. We believe he lives on the American side and crosses weekly." She says, "The only way to find him is from inside the cell in Nuevo Laredo." You say, "Who's the entry point?" She slides a second folder across. She says, "A mid-level operator named Vargas. He recruits independent contractors for the cell's transportation network. Your cover is a former military man from Monterrey who has been working freelance logistics for smaller organizations and is looking for steadier work. The cover has to hold against military verification checks. The Zetas always check military backgrounds because their founders were military and they know what real service looks like." You say, "What's the verification procedure?" She says, "We don't know exactly. That's what 2 previous insertions failed on." 2 previous insertions. You say, "What happened to the officers?" Mendez is quiet for a moment. She says, One was extracted safely before his cover broke. The other, we recovered him from the Rio Grande 6 weeks after contact was lost. You look at the photograph of El Contador. You say, "What's different this time?" She says, Your military background is real. 2 years in the Army before the DEA. The Zetas can verify every element of your service record because every element is true. We're building the cover around the parts of your life that are actually yours. That is the most dangerous kind of cover. Not because it might fail, because it might not. Diego Reyes. Your cover name is Diego Reyes. 36 years old. Born in Monterrey. 2 years of mandatory military service, infantry, honorably discharged, true, with your real service record attached to a fabricated name. After discharge, a series of logistics jobs in the legitimate economy of northern Mexico, then a gradual slide into freelance work for smaller organizations as the legitimate economy contracted and the other economy expanded. A man who is not ideologically committed to any organization, who is competent and reliable and available, and who is looking for something stable. The slide from legitimate to criminal is the most important part of the cover. It has to be credible, not a dramatic fall, not a moment of desperation, but the slow drift that happens when the economy of a region is so thoroughly infiltrated by organized crime that the line between legal and illegal work becomes a matter of which employer you happen to find first. This drift is real for hundreds of thousands of people in northern Mexico. Diego Reyes is one of them. The cover works because the story is common enough to be invisible. Your handler is an agent named Torres. He is based in the Laredo field office, and you will have no direct contact after insertion. The communication system is built around a pharmacy in Nuevo Laredo, a legitimate business whose owner is a cooperating witness. You pick up a prescription every 10 days. The prescription bottle contains a folded paper inside the cotton packing. Your intelligence goes out the same way, left in a specific drop at the pharmacy that Torres' network collects within 24 hours. Torres briefs you for 4 days before insertion. On the last day, he says, the Zetas conduct loyalty tests. This is documented and consistent across every source we have. They do not accept new members without a test, and the tests are designed to be impossible to fake. You need to know this before you go in, and you need to have thought about where your line is before you need it, because you will not have time to find it in the moment. You say, I understand. He says, I need you to say more than that. I need you to tell me what you will and won't do, so I know what kind of operation this is. You think about it for a long time. You say, I will do what is necessary to maintain the cover short of causing irreversible harm to an innocent person. Torres writes it down. He looks at what he wrote. He says, irreversible harm. That's where every officer draws the line, and it's never specific enough until you're in the room. He is right. You will learn this. You cross the border on a Friday morning, Diego Reyes with a duffel bag and a phone and the real history of your own military service attached to a name that isn't yours. What the Zetas actually are. The first thing the Zetas teach you, without intending to, is that military discipline applied to criminal enterprise produces something qualitatively different from anything the briefing documents prepared you for. There are no dice games, no corner stores, no casual hierarchies. There are operational security protocols that would not embarrass a special forces unit. New members are not welcomed, they are processed. Your background is verified through 3 separate channels before Vargas introduces you to anyone above his own level. The military service record check takes 11 days. You know it is happening because Vargas becomes unavailable for 11 days, and when he returns, he is different toward you, not warmer, but more direct. The test passed is not celebrated. It simply opens the next door. The structure is explicit. There are ranks, though they are not called that. Performance expectations, communicated clearly and measured. A code of conduct, unwritten but consistent. Rules about what constitutes acceptable violence. Rules whose existence signals someone thought about the organization's sustainability rather than simply its immediate profit. The Zetas are not chaotic. They are managed. That is the difference. You report all of this to Torres through the pharmacy. Torres confirms receipt each time. The intelligence is good, better than anything the field office has gathered in 3 years, and it accumulates with the specific patience of a case that is being built correctly. In month 3, you meet El Tigre. El Tigre is 43 years old. Former Mexican Army, Special Forces, one of the original Zetas who built the organization from the ground up. He carries himself with the specific physical economy of someone who has been trained to move through space efficiently and has done so for 20 years. He does not make unnecessary gestures. He does not raise his voice. He assesses people the way a professional assesses problems, not with judgment, with information processing. He looks at you for a long time after Vargas introduces you. He says, "You served." You say, 2 years. Infantry. He says, "Which regiment?" You tell him. He nods. He knows the regiment, knows the base, knows the specific culture of that unit in a way that tells you he has served alongside people from there. He says, "Why did you leave?" You say, "The pay was not sufficient for what they asked." He looks at you. He says, "That is the correct answer." He walks away. Vargas exhales slowly beside you. He says, "El Tigre doesn't usually talk to people at your level." You say, "Is that good?" Vargas says, "It means he's deciding something." Month 5. The first test. The first test is not the one in the warehouse. The first test is quieter and in some ways harder. In month 5, a truck driver named Aurelio who works one of the supply routes makes a series of small errors, 3 late deliveries in 2 weeks, a discrepancy in account that he cannot explain, the kind of accumulating small failures that in a legitimate organization would result in a performance review, and in this one results in a different process. El Tigre calls you into a room with Aurelio and 2 other men you have been working with for 5 months. He says, "Aurelio has a problem. We need to understand the problem before we decide what to do about it." He looks at you. He says, "Ask him." You are being asked to conduct an interrogation. Not with violence. El Tigre does not yet trust you for violence. With the specific pressure of someone who knows enough about Aurelio's operation to ask the questions that matter. You ask. You ask about the routes, the timing, the discrepancy. You ask about Aurelio's personal situation, debts, family, health. You build the picture the way you were trained to build it, with patience and sequence and the specific technique of finding the thread and pulling it slowly. Aurelio's problem is not betrayal. He has a son with medical bills he cannot pay, and he has been skimming, carefully, from the edge of loads in amounts too small to notice individually. The accumulation noticed him. You give El Tigre the information. El Tigre says, "What do you recommend?" You say, "He is not an informant. He is a desperate man making poor decisions under pressure. Those are manageable. Make his son's bills go away and he will not skim again." El Tigre looks at you for a long time. He says, "And why would we pay for his son?" You say, "Because replacing a reliable driver costs more than a medical bill. And because a man whose family you helped will work harder than a man who is afraid of you." El Tigre says nothing for a moment. Then, the son's bills are handled. Aurelio goes back to his route. He looks at you once more as he leaves. He says, "You think about problems correctly." Afterward, in the silence of the room, you sit with what you have done. You conducted an interrogation that produced information that was used to make a decision inside a cartel. You recommended a course of action that was taken. You are now, functionally, a resource the organization uses to solve problems. The case is building. The cost of building it is becoming specific. Month 7. El Contador. You find El Contador in month 7. Not by investigation, by accident, or rather by the kind of coincidence that is not coincidence but the natural result of being far enough inside the organization that the organization stops hiding things from you. He is present at a logistics meeting that you are invited to because El Tigre has been expanding your role gradually, giving you access to planning conversations in the way that the Zetas elevate trusted people, not with announcements, but with presence at the next room over. El Contador is 44 years old. He is thin, precise, speaks very little. He carries a laptop that he never opens in front of anyone and references by memory. He nods at you when you enter. He has been briefed on you, which means El Tigre briefed him, which means the circle of trust you have entered is smaller and more significant than the one you have been operating in. Over 3 weeks, you attend 4 meetings where El Contador is present. You observe his patterns, his methods, the specific way he communicates with the American distribution network through a system of coded messages sent through legitimate logistics companies' internal communication platforms, a system of such operational elegance that you spend an entire pharmacy note describing it to Torres. Torres responds, "This is the node we needed. Stay close to it. Do not approach him directly. You do not approach him directly. You are in the same rooms. You learn his system the way you learn any system, by watching it function and reverse engineering the logic. By the end of month 7, you have enough to identify El Contador's American identity. His real name, his address in Laredo, his crossing pattern, his vehicle, the specific truck stop outside Laredo where the blurry surveillance photograph was taken 3 years ago. You send it through the pharmacy." Torres responds in 24 hours, "Confirmed. This is sufficient for the full warrant package. Preparing for extraction and simultaneous arrests. Estimated 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. And then the night in the warehouse arrives before 2 weeks have passed. The warehouse. Rodrigo says he doesn't know how the number got in his phone. El Tigre says nothing. He looks at you. You have the length of a breath. Torres told you, in the briefing 4 days before insertion, tell me what you will and won't do, because you won't have time to find the line in the moment. You found the line the day you crossed the border. The line is irreversible harm to an innocent person. Rodrigo is telling the truth. You can hear it in the specific texture of his denial, the way a man who is lying tries to construct a story and a man who is telling the truth simply repeats what he knows. You have conducted enough interrogations, real and cover, to tell the difference. You step forward. You say, "Let me talk to him." El Tigre gestures. The room gives you space. You crouch in front of Rodrigo. You speak quietly, in the register of someone conducting a process rather than performing for an audience. You say, "The number. When did you get this phone?" He says, 4 months ago. "I bought it at the market in Nuevo Laredo." You say, "Used or new?" He says, "Used." From a man in the electronics section. You say, "Did you reset it before you used it?" He stops. He says, "I don't know how." You stand. You say to El Tigre, the number was on the phone before he bought it. A used phone from a market stall. Someone's old contact list. He's been carrying a DEA number for 4 months without knowing it and without ever calling it, which is why it never showed in their surveillance. El Tigre looks at you. He says, "You're sure?" You say, "Call the number again." Look at the area code. It's a San Antonio area code, but the last 4 digits, that's the format the DEA uses for their general intake line. It's not a handler number. It's a hotline. The kind of number that ends up in old phones across the border because it gets passed around as a tip line. The room is very quiet. El Tigre takes out his phone. He calls the number. It rings twice and connects to a recorded message, the DEA's general tip line, available to the public, listed on their website. He hangs up. He looks at Rodrigo. He looks at you. He says, "Get him out of here." 2 men take Rodrigo out. He does not look back. El Tigre says to you, "How did you know?" You say, "I've worked logistics long enough to know what a handler number looks like." That wasn't one. He looks at you for a long time. He says, "Good instinct." You say, "Good information." He nods. He walks to the door. Before he leaves, without turning around, he says, "You just saved a man's life." You say, "I just solved a problem correctly." He leaves. You stand in the warehouse until everyone else has gone. Then you walk to a gas station 3 blocks away and stand in the cold for 20 minutes breathing slowly, because you need to count the cost of what just happened before you can carry it anywhere. Rodrigo is alive. That is the line, and the line held. The cost of holding it is that El Tigre now trusts you at a level that will require you to be in more rooms like that one. You walk back. Day 52 after the warehouse. The warrant process takes 7 weeks. 7 weeks of being the person El Tigre trusts, which means 7 weeks of rooms where decisions are made, 7 weeks of intelligence that goes into pharmacy bottles and out to Torres, 7 weeks of accumulating the kind of proximity to the organization's command structure that the DEA has been trying to build for 4 years. You find out the warrants are ready on a Thursday morning through a pharmacy note that reads, "Extraction Saturday 0400. Location follows." Saturday is 2 days away. On Friday evening, El Tigre invites you to dinner. A restaurant in Nuevo Laredo, a corner table, just the 2 of you. He orders without looking at the menu. He drinks beer, not whiskey. He talks about Monterey. He knows someone from your supposed neighborhood, a childhood friend whose name you have in your cover file because Torres put it there, and the conversation has the texture of two men at the end of something, though only one of them knows the end is Saturday at 4 in the morning. He says, "When you came in, I didn't know what you were. Vargas vouched for you, and Vargas has good instincts, but so do a lot of people who turned out to be something other than what they said." You say, "What did you think I was?" He says, "A man trying to survive in a difficult environment by being useful to people with more power than him. Which is what most of us are, regardless of which side of the structure we're on." You say, "Is that what you decided I was?" He says, "That's what I decided you were. I may have been wrong about which environment you were surviving in." The sentence lands quietly. No accusation in it. Just a man stating a possibility he has considered. You say, "What would you do if you were?" He looks at his beer. He says, "Nothing tonight." You eat dinner. You pay the bill. You walk back to your apartment. At 4 a.m. Saturday, Torres picks you up on a side street 2 blocks from the border crossing. You get in the car with a bag that contains nothing from the operation. No documents, no notes, nothing that proves Diego Reyes existed except what you carry in your memory. Torres says, "The warrants execute in 4 hours." You say, "He knew." Torres says, "El Tigre?" You say, "He told me nothing would happen tonight." Not that nothing would happen. Torres drives. He says, "Did he give you a way out?" You say, "He gave me dinner and a sentence that could mean 2 things. In this business that might be the same." 4 hours after dinner. The warrants execute at 8 a.m. across Nuevo Laredo, San Antonio, and 2 cities in Texas. The coordination between DEA, the Mexican AIC, and HSI took 11 weeks to construct and runs 47 minutes before it is complete. El Contador, Francisco Medina, born in Laredo, 44 years old, appearing in every public record as a freight logistics consultant, is arrested at his home while making coffee. His laptop's contents will produce evidence sufficient for 43 charges across 2 jurisdictions. Vargas is arrested at his home. He is eating breakfast with his son. El Tigre is arrested at a safe house in Nuevo Laredo that the AIC had under surveillance for 3 months. He comes to the door before the agents knock. He is dressed. He looks at the agents with the specific absence of surprise of a man who has been preparing for this particular morning since Friday dinner. He says nothing when they read him his rights. He looks once at the agent in charge, and then he looks at something past the agent's shoulder, something in the middle distance that only he can see, and he gets in the car. 38 total arrests. 26 federal charges on the American side, 16 under Mexican federal jurisdiction. El Contador's financial records, combined with your operational intelligence, map the complete supply chain from Nuevo Laredo to 3 American cities, the most complete picture the DEA has assembled of a Zetas distribution network. You give your debrief in a facility outside San Antonio over 6 days. On the 6th day, Mendez shakes your hand. She says, "The warehouse." Rodrigo. You say, "I solved the problem correctly." She says, "You saved a man's life and maintained the cover. Those don't usually happen at the same time." You say, "They did that time." She says, "Torres told me what you said before insertion. Irreversible harm to an innocent person." You say, "That was the line." She says, "It held." You say, "Yes." You do not say the rest, which is that holding the line in the warehouse was not an act of calculation. It was an act of recognition, Rodrigo's specific desperation, the texture of a man telling the truth in a room that had already decided not to believe him. The line held because you could tell the difference between a man who was innocent and a man who was not, and you chose to say so in a room where saying so was a risk. That is not protocol. That is not training. That is something else, something that has a name only in the gap between what you were sent to do and what you actually did. What you carry out. The psychological evaluation runs 5 weeks. Standard protocol. You see a counselor named Dr. Vega twice a week. In the 3rd week, she asks, "Is there a moment from the operation that you return to?" You say, "The warehouse." She says, "Because of the pressure?" You say, "Because of Rodrigo." She waits. You say, "He didn't look back when they took him out. He just walked." Like he was afraid that if he looked back something would change. She says, "And did it?" You say, "No." He walked out and nothing changed in that room. El Tigre turned to the next thing. The 11 men went back to what they were doing. An hour later it was as if Rodrigo had never been there. She says, "But you still see it." You say, "I see him not looking back. I wonder where he is. Whether he knows how close it was. Whether anyone ever told him." She writes something down. Rodrigo was located through the AIC 3 months after the operation closed. He is alive. He has no knowledge of the undercover operation. He believes El Tigre was satisfied by whatever explanation was given for his release. He returned to his route. He went back to the same road. That detail sits with you in a specific way you cannot fully account for. He didn't know, and he went back. The proximity to the thing that almost happened to him did not change his available options. The road was still the road. El Tigre receives a 20-year sentence. He is 43 years old. His attorney argues his military service as mitigating context. The judge acknowledges it and imposes the sentence regardless, which is a form of justice and a form of irony simultaneously. Vargas receives 8 years. El Contador, Francisco Medina of Laredo, receives 31 years across 2 convictions. His freight logistics company, the one that appeared in every public record, is dissolved. The building it operated from is now a tax preparation office. You return to the Laredo field office. Different cases, same border. The Zetas cell that was dismantled has been partially reconstituted under different leadership with a modified structure. The supply routes have shifted 40 miles west. The weekly volume through the new configuration is, according to current intelligence, approximately the same as it was before the operation. The organization learned. It always does. You think about El Tigre at dinner. His sentence that could mean 2 things. Nothing will happen tonight. He gave you dinner and a door and the specific grace of a man who decided not to act on what he knew. Maybe he respected the work. Maybe he respected that in the warehouse you used skills he spent 7 months watching you build to save a man rather than end one. Maybe there is no reason that maps onto a category you understand. You were sent to find El Contador. You found him. You documented the supply chain. You built the case that put 38 people in federal custody. You also stood in a warehouse at 1:47 a.m. and drew a line and held it. Torres told you the line would not be specific enough until you were in the room. He was right. What he did not tell you, what nobody tells you, is that after the room, the line stays specific. It goes with you into every subsequent operation, every subsequent room, every subsequent moment where someone looks at you and asks you to show them what 7 months means. The line is the only thing from 9 months undercover that belongs entirely to you. Not the case. Not the intelligence. Not Diego Reyes. The line. And whether or not you can hold it the next time depends on whether you were honest about where you drew it the first time. You were. You think,